So on the born versus bred, or the
born versus learned, yeah.
Born versus learned. Sorry. Let's bring up. I want to bring up Emmanuel, your partner, who you have started a company called Fundseeder with, and at StockTwits. I think you guys will really be, and they're around to ask questions outside, and they're doing in a breakout session to really dive into Fundseeder. But the idea is, how do we seed talented people? You know, they show up on StockTwits. You don't know what they look like, but they have great ideas. And how do these people? The hardest part, as we all know, whether you're starting a company or starting a fund or a small business, is raising money. Or how do you allocate money to the right people at the right time, per se? And that's where Fundseeder comes in. So meet Emmanuel. He's him and Jack have a brilliant idea. And why don't you talk about the idea?
Sure.
It's a product, so they'll demo it later. But
well, I think, Howard, as is the case with any good idea, or good ideas out there generally, they come from either failure or just necessity. And in my case, the idea came several years ago, maybe 5-6 years ago, where I was going to launch a fund, have committed capital. Investors put it to structure it. They were going to seed it with $30 million, and it never worked out. They backed out of it. And, as entrepreneurs and even traders in here, you have those drawdown moments or like a rock bottom moments where you try to kind of figure out, what's the problem or how can I solve this? And I remember at that time, I said, there's got to be a better way. If I could only find investors out there that believed in me or had an allocation in this sector, if they just switch it over to me, I'd give them a piece of my company. I'd give them an upside in terms of the fees and the optionality on the potential growth. So that's what happened. And then I transitioned in terms of the real world, where over the last 6-7 years, over the last 4 years with Jack, we consistently would see these market wizards, undiscovered market wizards, trading talent, and they had no path to go. I mean, if you're a trader today and if you're not from the old Wall Street pedigree establishment, it's absolutely impossible for you to actually raise money, even though you're outperforming everybody. So from the trader side, there's just no way of sort of meeting these investors. And so from the investor side, we also met, and we had a number of investors that would always eagerly look for emerging managers, so institutional investors, high net worth investors. So we knew there was a demand for finding talent. I mean, it's sort of a supply and demand game. And so with Fundseeder, the idea here is simply that we've created, we like to refer as the world's first search engine for undiscovered trading talent. So here it's broker agnostic, wherever you're at. We're able to pull your data and pull your information. We have a proprietary algorithm that scores and ranks traders. And we're giving traders an opportunity to be discovered and to be funded. On the investor side, and this is sort of the angel list or our crowd aspect of it, we're basically saying that we're going to incentivize you as an investor to be a first-in allocator. So traditionally, the idea is that Wall Street has had a sort of a grasp and a stronghold on first-in economics for obvious reasons. You got distribution, there's benefits to coming in. But if you're an investor out there and you see a talented trader, both pedigree or non-pedigree, and you have the opportunity to be first in, you should be rewarded and incentivized for that first-in allocation. And the reward is either you get a capacity, perhaps in a capacity-constrained product, you get discounted fees, or the optionality of seed economics. So it's almost a free call. And so that's a general concept of what we've done. We're going to launch, you want to show the demo, launch here shortly. We've had some pretty good traction. We really haven't marketed. We have several thousand traders from over 55 countries that have signed up, over 100 investors ranging from private clients to university endowments. So we know there's a need to find talent and discover it.
For me, the pain is when I allocate capital from my fund or for friends, it's style drift. And the style drift probably comes from life. I don't know if you've noticed this. I mean, everybody's life changes. If your life's perfect, you can focus on what your strategy is. But I think having something like Fundseeder will allow people to zero in on hiring people that do their job properly. So hopefully what are the key benefits that you see?
Yeah, absolutely. And as traders, Howard, the idea is if you're a trader, it takes 100% of your energy to trade, right? So I think a lot of traders that want to take the leap and transition in terms of, okay, look, here's my prop track record. I think I can do a really good job. I'm going to set up my fund. They spent $100,000 to set up, and now they're wearing multiple hats, right? They're wearing the hat of a marketer. They're wearing the hat of a trader, and I've seen it firsthand. It's not going to work out. It's just impossible. So sooner or later, it's going to unravel. So with Fundseeder, and what we also recognize, because this is what we've done real time, both Jack and I, in terms of finding traders, we want to provide them with the right infrastructure, with the right sort of process in place so that they can focus on trading, and then the investors themselves have the added comfort that, this thing is properly structured in a manner that there's a high likelihood that it's going to continue to succeed.
Yeah. And so just on the basic tech side, without showing the product, how legally do we get around, and how do we pull the data to assure that this is that person? At Stocktoberfest, we're light. We're like, hey, people will figure out if you're real or not. It's not our job to necessarily do that. We have an open API. People can create ranking systems. We don't want to be the rankers. You definitely want to be part of the ranking. Or help rank so that people with capital family offices, high net worth individuals can deploy capital.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I want to make, so along that line, one important thing that makes Fundseeder different from, there are sites.
I've never heard of anything like it.
Yeah. So, but one critical thing, you have databases out there. You have databases with traders out there. So one big difference is Fundseeder's data does not come from the trader. It comes from the brokerage. Okay. So you got lots of sites out there. Your traders can submit their numbers, but hey, you don't know if you're looking at something as an investor. You don't know if you're looking at something real or somebody made off like imagination. So this way, the numbers are coming from a real account, and that's a critical thing.
Mm-hmm. And it's a critical thing. I mean, we have institutional investors that are aggressively looking for managers, and for them, it actually also shortens the due diligence cycle because they get these emails, they get these inquiries, and they get these monthly statements. But because it's a transparency component coming directly from the brokerage firms or the trading platforms that we're tracking, they're able to hone in, and we're collecting daily data, which I think is a significant, on a go-forward basis in terms of what Fundseeder can do as well. They can say, well, okay, fine, you were up, 5% this month, but what happened that day? What happened? What did you, like May 14? Was there a big drawdown? And so it's all about data and more actionable, obviously, insight. And so the transparency component is absolutely a high criteria for us, both for our traders and investors.
Got it. So I want to open it to some questions. Jack's good enough to hang around. I think if there's a couple good questions, I'd like for Emmanuel or Jack to take them from the audience. Fire away if anybody has one. I'll keep it. Yeah, in the back. Tom Brackey.
So basically, when you're looking at analyzing what a trader is doing, is it really the performance or is it the attributes that assign to various actions that lead to the belief that it's going to be consistent going forward?
Okay, so to be clear, we're not making that decision. We're providing the tools and the analysis, but we're not, and the data, but we're not making the decision. That's up to investors to decide.
Do they connect behind the scenes so they connect and can chat? And how do you control that?
Well, we try to.
Good question, Tony.
Yeah, so we actually have a proprietary algorithm that ranks data, ranks the traders. So in terms of if you think about the search engine, there's an algorithm that ranks them, and so it's a tool, but it's predictive in nature. So it looks at, because we've been collecting daily data, and we've been doing this in the first version over the last year and a half, there's a predictive a component of what we think that the best traders are going to do on a go-forward basis. So if you look at the money ball of traders, for example, that's the idea behind it. But investors themselves, that's just a tool, right? So ultimately then when we look at it or investors look at it, they can do further due diligence in it, right? They can drill down. But what we're looking at doing with Fundseeder, it's a numbers game, right? If you think you're trying to find the best athlete, right, the best Olympian, you're not just going to go to New York City and go to every single gym looking for the best, swimmer. You're going to open it up on a global scale because it's just statistics. So what we're basically doing on Fundseeder, because it is broker agnostic and because it's, like I said, 55 countries have signed up, we're just going to try to find as many traders as possible to track, and then just whittle it down in terms of what the best speaks for themselves and provide the infrastructures where the investors feel comfortable.
Does that help you, Tom? A couple more questions for Tom or for Fundseeder. You're next. Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So right now we are opening it up in the next week. So we're going to show some demos in our presentation. So the available platforms that we can track currently on the FX side, if you're using an FX platform, several hundred. On the future side, all 50 plus futures brokerage firms, we're tracking it directly from the trading platform. So whether it's CQG or the components that use CQG, like Bloomberg or I think eSignal as well. And then interactive brokers for equities, and then we're going to expand on a go-forward basis. But we're trying to also launch it in an incremental fashion because we've been pretty much inundated with requests. We just, there's obviously going to be bugs, but it's in the next week or so we're going to start rolling it out.
So it's a startup like other tech startups. And how many people are there at the company?
Yeah, there's a team that's built it out of Australia. There's about 8 people. We got our technology group out of Australia. There's Jack, James Bivings, myself. And I think the thing that makes Fundseeder different than most technology startups is a lot of the principles. We built this model in the real. I mean, this is what we've done. We found, like Jack and I have traveled to the coast of Portugal to Shanghai, China,
Literally,
meeting traders, and we found these phenomenal traders. And then we've known this investor sort of network that is looking and is aggressive to kind of allocate. So we've done this sort of pairing. We're just trying to take it on a more global scale. And ultimately, the goal is to disrupt the multi-trillion-dollar hedge fund industry by incentivizing investors.
I think we should open with that. That's genius. That's why I'm in love with this idea, just because as an entrepreneur, and the fact that Jack is fired up about this, and the fact that I can't believe our industry can't solve these stupid problems. A lot of it is because of the walls of these industries, and they're all in the room, and they're changing, and mobile is going to change everything, and corners of the world are going to change. Like where are the great traders? You had a question over here.
Yeah, and I believe this is going to be covered.
And you're on double secret probation, so make it smooth. Keith.
In any case, Howard, this will probably be covered in the demonstration, but you've got the necessity for the individual to do due diligence, and you've got the information that you're going to be providing, besides just name and email address of the trader. How deep do you see your information going? And do you see it going deep enough that you're actually providing some due diligence?
Absolutely, yeah. As a company involved, that's absolutely the case. I
So
mean,
he's okay. He can stay.
He's
been kicked out
You
before.
could say you could even do it as a
Well done.
demo.
Can I ask another question?
No. Tomorrow, yes, but have it curated. Just kidding.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Yeah,
And then Mike, I'll get you.
absolutely. And I mean, I think, Howard, when we first spoke about it, you asked a very similar question. It's like, you like the idea, but if I get inundated with all these traders, and even though there's like a metric, how do I play this out? So, our goal, of course, is to structure things, to conduct a due diligence, to open it up to investors where, ultimately they know it's a product that they feel comfortable investing in, right? Because from an investor perspective, if they're one of the first ins, they get 2 things out of it, right? They're ideally getting a trader that is better than what their current portfolio is. But if they're the first to get in, they get that optionality on the upside. If this trader becomes the next multi-billion-dollar trader, they get a piece of the economics. So we want to structure it in a way, and we have distribution in a way where there's a high likelihood or a good likelihood that fund is going to grow so that they get the economics. So it's got due diligence as a component of it, obviously, and so is operations and risk management and so forth.
And to give credit where it's due, one of our 3 founding partners, James Bivings, his expertise.
He looks too young.
Well, somebody got to offset my age, right?
Okay.
His expertise is on that side. His firm Turnkey. He takes traders and does the compliance and does audit, involved auditing, and so we've got one of the partners that has expertise in that area.
Yeah, I could talk to you guys for hours. I'm going to go to one last question. Mike, did you have a question? So Trader Mike, a good friend of mine, and also a longtime writer and obviously a fan of Jack's. Go ahead. Good to see you.
Yeah.
The question is, I think we all change. I learned early on that I couldn't manage hundreds of millions of dollars. It's a Vegas thing. I go to the chip table, and at $100, I shiver up. So how does that
Which is
change
good, keeps you from losing money.
Yeah.
That's a lousy bet. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So that's the question.
How do traders change?
Yeah.
Well, from traders to managing money, Yeah, it happens. It's a reality of the game, right? People think that they're going to be, they're fantastic traders, and then they start managing money, and it just messes them up. And I've seen it happen too many times. But a part of it is because they deal with investors, right? And then they're wearing multiple hats. And so part of what we're looking at doing, because we're providing the infrastructure in place so that they focus on trading, we hope we can help with that. But the reality is some of you guys in the room that are fantastic traders and you're trying to manage money, to try to manage money, and it's not going to work out. It's just not going to happen. It's a different ballgame altogether to transition from a trader to a money manager.
Well, it's.
But so it works for some people. It doesn't work for others. Is what it really comes down to. So I mean, more people I interviewed. Well, some of them just traded their own account, but most of them started out trading their own account and did transition to becoming money managers.
Well, I've learned so much from you over the years. You look great. So the Northwest is.
I've only been there 4 months, so.
So it's not the Northwest. The hustle and bustle is what kept you young. So the Northwest hopefully keeps you young. Emmanuel, it's good to become friends. They're great guys. They've been very supportive of Stocktoberfest and of StockTwits in our time, and they're doing what social leverage Tom and I love to do, which is connect people through technology and through social and through performance and persistence. So congrats, and I'm excited for you guys.
Appreciate it, Howard. Thank you.